Very good morning to all of you. आज हम स्टार्ट करते हैं लाइबिलिटी टू पे इन सर्टेन केसेस. देन उसके बाद में हम एडवांस रोलिंग का डिस्कशन करेंगे एंड इफ टाइम परमिट देन वी विल टेक द केस स्टडी. ठीक है. हाउ इज द प्रिपरेशन गोइंग ऑन संजय? हाउ इज द प्रिपरेशन गोइंग ऑन? Okay, great. See, liability to pay in case of the transfer of the business where a taxable person, business transfer हो रहा है, ठीक है, where a taxable person liable to pay under CGST transfer his business. This include transfer or the changes in the ownership due to the death of the sole proprietor in whole or in part, by sale, by gift, by lease, या by leave and license, hire, or in any other manner whatsoever. The taxable person and the person to whom the business is so transferred shall jointly and severally be liable fully or to the extent of the transfer to pay the tax, interest, penalty due from the taxable person up to the time of the transfer, whether such tax, interest, penalty has been determined before the transfer or but remain unpaid or is determined thereafter. So the point is, determination is either at the time of the transfer or thereafter, doesn't matter. It will be paid by whom? Jointly. Shall be jointly and severally be liable. जितना ट्रांसफर किया, अगर कंप्लीट किया तो कंप्लीट, नहीं तो जितना ट्रांसफर किया टू दैट एक्सटेंट. Where the transferee of the business referred to in subsection 1 carries on the such transfer either on his own name or in some other name, he shall be liable to pay the tax on the supply effected by him with effect from the date of the transfer. Further, if he is a registered person under this act, he shall apply within the prescribed time for the amendment of his certificate of registration. So अगर उसे कुछ amend करवाना है तो he can do the amendment. The transferee shall be liable to pay the tax, interest, penalty due from the transferor in case of the death of the sole proprietor. तो अब उस केस में क्या होगा, पूरी लाइबिलिटी ट्रांसफरी की बन जाएगी. ठीक है. नाउ do you remember that in the section 22 there is one requirement or there is one registration, whether it is mandatory or not, you need to tell me. If the transferer transfer the business to the transferee, whether transferee need to take mandatory registration or not. क्या ट्रांसफरी को मैंडेटरी रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना पड़ेगा या नहीं, ये हमने बात सेक्शन 22 में रीड की थी शायद. आंसर इज यस, दे नीड टू टेक रजिस्ट्रेशन मैंडेटरली. लेने के बाद में 22 सबसेक्शन 4 लेने के बाद में अगर उनको लगता है कि नहीं मुझे रिक्वायर्ड नहीं है, इन दैट केस दे कैन सरेंडर, दैट इज ओके. अब हम बात करते हैं लाइबिलिटी ऑफ एजेंट एंड प्रिंसिपल, सेक्शन 86, where an agent supplies or receive any taxable goods on behalf of his principal. So principal and agent, again section 24 talked about mandatory category of registration. Such agent and principal shall jointly and severally be liable to pay the tax payable on that goods. Now 85 is complete, 86 is complete. We are talking about 87, liability to pay in case of amalgamation or merger of the companies. When two or more companies are amalgamated or merged in pursuance of the court order, tribunal or otherwise, the order is to take effect from the date earlier the date of order. the order is take effect from the earlier date. The two or more of the company have supplied or received the goods or service or both to or from each other during the period commencing on the date from the order takes effect till the date of order. Then such transaction of the supply and recipient be included in the turnover of the supply or receipt of the respective companies, and they will be liable to pay the tax accordingly. I hope it is clear. So they are talking about which period? Let's say today is the order is being issued from 4th January and they are making the effective date as 1st January. So whatever the supply made between 1st to 4th. So two or more company have supplied or received any goods or services during the period commencing on the date from which the order takes effect. That is 1st January till the date of order. That is 4th January. Then such transaction of the supply and the recipient shall be included in the turnover and they will be liable to pay the tax accordingly. For the purpose of the said two or more companies, they shall be treated as distinct person for the period up to the date of the said order. The registration certificate of the said company shall be cancelled from the effective date of the said order. Okay. Liability in case of the liquidation. Correct. Section 88. When initiation by liquidator of the company of his appointment to commissioner, when any company is being wound up, whether under the order of the court or the tribunal or otherwise, every person appointed as receiver of any asset of a company, when any company is being wound up and under the court order or tribunal, every person appointed as receiver of any asset of the company to whom we called as a liquidator shall within 30 days of his appointment give intimation to the commissioner. Now, estimation of the tax, interest, penalty payable live or likely to become payable by the company in liquidation. The commissioner shall, after making such inquiry or calling for such information as he may deem fit, notify the liquidator within 3 months from the date on which he received the intimation of the appointment of the liquidator, the amount which in the opinion of the commissioner would sufficient to provide for any tax, interest, penalty which is then or is likely to become payable by the company. Then director of the private company to be jointly and severally be liable for payment of such tax, interest, penalty which is not covered when any private company is wound up. ठीक है, and any tax, interest, penalty determined under the CGST Act on the company for any period, whether before or in the course of or after its liquidation. रिपीट करता हूं मैं, जहां पे कंपनी बाउंड अप हुई है, कोई टैक्स, इंटरेस्ट, पेनल्टी डिटरमाइंड हुआ है फॉर एनी पीरियड, वेदर बिफोर और इन द कोर्स और आफ्टर इट्स लिक्विडेशन, करेक्ट, कैन नॉट बी रिकवर्ड, अल्टीमेटली वो रिकवर नहीं हुआ, देन every person who was the director of the company at any time during the period, जिस पीरियड का टैक्स है उस पीरियड में वो डायरेक्टर है, then jointly and severally be liable for the payment of the tax, interest, penalty. However, the director shall not be so liable अगर वो prove कर देता है कि to the satisfaction of the commissioner that non-recovery cannot be attributable to any gross negligence, misfeasance or breach of the duty on the part in relation to the affair of the company. ठीक है, हमने ऑलमोस्ट एक सेम बात रीड की थी. कंपनी के केस में लाइबिलिटी किसकी होती है? लाइबिलिटी इन केस ऑफ कंपनी, Then we have talked about 2 point कि one, it will always be deemed to be the liable. वो कौन था? And second, they would be liable only if it is proved. सी फर्स्ट कैटेगरी ऑफ द पर्सन जब आप मुझे आंसर देंगे वो हमेशा लाइबल रहेंगे. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट द लिक्विडेशन ऑफ द कंपनी, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट कंटिन्यूएशन ऑफ द कंपनी, ऑफेंसेस बाय द कंपनी. तो कौन लाइबल होगा? द वन कैटेगरी, वन सेट ऑफ द पर्सन वो विल ऑलवेज डीम टू बी द गिल्टी. सेकेंड सेट ऑफ द पर्सन विल बी डीम टू बी द गिल्टी अगर वो प्रूव हो जाता है. कैन यू हेल्प मी टू रिकॉल कि वो कौन से पर्सन थे जिनको हमेशा डीम टू बी गिल्टी माना जाएगा? ग्रेट ग्रेट. द पर्सन, सो वर्ड डायरेक्टर नहीं था बट अदरवाइज गीत आपका आंसर परफेक्ट है. द पर्सन हु इज कंडक्टिंग द एंटायर अफेयर ऑफ द कंपनी. करेक्ट. द पर्सन हु इज रेस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द एंटायर अफेयर ऑफ द कंपनी. दैट मीन फॉर आवर अंडरस्टैंडिंग आई एम यूजिंग द वर्ड चेयरमैन और मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर. For our understanding, I'm using the word, but these words are not there in the law. ठीक है. The person who is managing the entire affair of the company, and then all other officer, director, manager, secretary, they will be deemed to be the guilty अगर proof हो जाता है तो. और again, first person जो कि entire affair of the company को manage कर रहे हैं, when they will not be deemed to be the guilty, when they will not be deemed to be the guilty, जो मेन मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर है, जो एंटायर अफेयर ऑफ द कंपनी को मैनेज कर रहे हैं, विच इज डीम्ड टू बी द गिल्टी. बट अगर वो कुछ कर देते हैं, इन दैट केस दे विल नॉट बी हेल्ड टू बी गिल्टी. क्या कर देते हैं कि इट वाज नॉट एट द अगर वो प्रूव कर देते हैं कि जी जो भी ऑफेंस हुआ है इट वाज नॉट एट्रीब्यूटेबल और ग्रॉस नेग्लिजेंस, और उसने ड्यू जो भी उसे एक्शन लेने थे वो ले लिए, एंड देयरफॉर देन इट इज नॉट द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ द पर्सन. ठीक है. देन लाइबिलिटी ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स ऑफ प्राइवेट कंपनी. हमने पीछे वाले में क्या पढ़ा था? लाइबिलिटी ऑफ सेक्शन 88 में क्या पढ़ा था? लाइबिलिटी इन केस ऑफ द कंपनी लिक्विडेशन. अब हम बात कर रहे हैं लाइबिलिटी क्या होगी? डायरेक्टर की. Director of the company be jointly and severally be liable for payment of tax interest penalty due from the company and not recovered. Where any tax interest penalty due from a private company in respect of any supply of goods or services or both for any period which cannot be recovered, then every person who was the director during such period shall be liable, jointly or severally be liable, unless he prove the non-recovery not attributable to the gross negligence, misfeasance or breach of the duty on his part. करेक्ट. सेम बात रिपीट हो रही है कि कंपनी का है तो डायरेक्टर रिस्पॉन्सिबल होंगे किसी भी पीरियड का हो, और उस पीरियड से रिलेटेड अगर डायरेक्टर था तो ही वुड बी जॉइंटली एंड सेवरली बी लाइबल. ठीक है. एंड कब लाइबल नहीं होगा? अगर वो प्रूव कर देता है. Director not jointly and severally be liable for payment due from a private company is not recovered if such private company get converted into the public company. Where the private company is converted into the public company, then tax, interest, penalty in respect of any supply of the goods or services or both for any period during which such company was a private company cannot be recovered before the conversion, then nothing contained in subsection shall apply to any person who was the director in relation to any tax, interest, penalty of such company. मतलब जो डायरेक्टर है वो रेस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं होगा पेमेंट करने के लिए. However, nothing contained shall apply to any person penalty imposed, any personal penalty imposed on the director. That is okay. अब हम बात करते हैं लाइबिलिटी ऑफ द फर्म्स टू पे द टैक्सेस. सेक्शन 90. नॉटविथस्टैंडिंग एनी कॉन्ट्ररी टू any contrary to the contrary and any other law for the time being in force, where any firm is liable to pay the tax interest penalty under this act, the firm and each of the partner shall be jointly and severally be liable for the payment of tax. See, this chapter is important. You should be aware about the responsibility of the person who is working as a partner of the firm. Sometimes we casually add ourselves or family member as a director of the company or as a partnership of the firm, etc. Okay. Then in that case, make sure the liability would be on that director or on that partner also. Any period during which that director or partner जो उस पीरियड में था तो उस पीरियड में वो डायरेक्टर थे या पार्टनर थे. Retiring partner liable to pay tax interest penalty due to the date of his retirement. हाँ, एक बात और है. क्या बात है? ये वाला बात. When any person leaves the position of the director, partner, etc., he has to inform where any partner retires from the firms, he or the firm shall intimate the date of the retirement to the commissioner by a notice in that behalf in writing, and such partner shall be liable to pay tax interest penalty due up to the date of his retirement, whether determined at that point of time or determined at a later stage. However, if no such intimation is given within 1 month, the liability of the partner shall continue until the date on which the intimation is received. My God. Means if you will not intimate, then your liability would continue till the time you will not intimate. Then liability of the guardian, trustees, section 91. When the business in respect of which any tax, interest or penalties payable under this act is carried out by any guardian, trustee or agent of a minor or other incapacitated person on behalf of or for the benefit of the minor or other incapacitated person, the tax interest penalty shall be levied upon and recovered from that guardian, trustee or agent. The tax interest penalty shall be levied and recovered in like manner and to same extent as it would determine and recovered from any such minor or other incapacitated person, as if he were a major and he were a capable person and he were doing the business himself, and all the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder shall apply accordingly. Okay. So liability of court of wards, etc. 92. Where the state or any portion of the state of a taxable person owning a business in respect of which TIP is payable under this act or under the control of the court of wards, the administrative journal, official trustee or receiver or manager, including any person, whatever be the designation, who in fact manage the business appointed by or under the court order, the tax interest penalty shall be levied and recoverable from such court of wards, administrator general, official trustee, receiver or manager. The tax interest penalty shall be levied and recoverable in the like manner and in the same extent as it would be determined and recoverable from the taxable person अगर वो खुद बिजनेस कर रहा था तो. Special provision regarding the liability to pay the tax interest penalty in certain cases. Now, on death of the person liable to pay the tax interest penalty. ये क्वेश्चन प्रैक्टिकली कई बार आता है. सपोज समवन इफ योर क्लाइंट यू हैव और अदरवाइज भी, ठीक है, कि अगर किसी पर्सन की डेथ हो जाती है और उनका लीगल हेयर कंटिन्यू करता है या लीगल हेयर भी शट डाउन कर देता है, तो उस केस का क्या होगा? सेव एज अदरवाइज प्रोवाइडेड इन द IBC, इंसॉल्वेंसी बैंक्रप्सी कोड, where a person liable to pay tax interest penalty, then अगर बिजनेस कंटिन्यू होता है आफ्टर द डेथ ऑल्सो, then business carried on by the person is continued after the death by his legal representative or any other person. तो जो पर्सन बिजनेस कंटिन्यू कर रहा है, he will be liable to pay the tax interest penalty from such person under this act. ड्यू फ्रॉम सच पर्सन, जो एक्सपायर हो चुके हैं उनसे जितना भी लाइबिलिटी थी उनकी, दैट लाइबिलिटी वुड बी पेड बाय द पर्सन लीगल हेयर और जो भी बिजनेस कैरी ऑन कर रहा है. हाँ, अगर बिजनेस डिसकंटिन्यू हो गया उसकी डेथ के बाद में, if the business carried on by the person is discontinued whether before or after his death, his legal representative shall be liable to pay out of the state of the deceased person. यहां पर एक अच्छी बात क्या है कि एक कैप लगा दी, आउट ऑफ द स्टेट ऑफ द डिसीज्ड पर्सन. इफ द बिजनेस इज कैरिड ऑन बाय द पर्सन इज डिसकंटिन्यूड बिफोर और आफ्टर द डेथ, his legal representative shall be liable out of the state of the deceased to the extent to which the state is capable of meeting the tax interest penalty which was due, whether such tax interest penalty has been determined before but remain unpaid or after. The successor shall be liable to pay the tax interest penalty due from the transferor in case of the transfer of the business due to the death of the sole proprietor. So sole proprietor के केस में काफी इंपॉर्टेंट सर्कुलर है. You may read for entire understanding for the in case of the death of the proprietor. ठीक है, ITC कैसे ट्रांसफर होगा, नए वाले को रजिस्ट्रेशन कब लेना होगा, एटसेट्रा. तो इट विल बी मतलब कि क्लियर बाय द सर्कुलर. यू मे रेफर दैट सर्कुलर इंडिविजुअली आल्सो. On partition of HUF or AOP, save as otherwise provided in the IBC, where the taxable person liable to pay tax interest penalty is a HUF or AOP, and properties of the HUF or AOP is partitioned among the various members, then each member or group of the member shall jointly and severally be liable to pay the tax interest penalty up to the time of the partition, whether it has been determined before but remain unpaid or it is determined after. अगर फर्म डिसॉल्व हो जाती है, save as provided in IBC, where the taxable person liable to pay tax interest penalty and such firm is dissolved, then every person who was a partner shall jointly and severally be liable to pay the tax interest penalty due from the firm up to the time of the dissolution, and again whether it is determined before the dissolution but remain unpaid or it has been determined after the dissolution. On termination of the guardianship or trust, save as provided in IBC, where the taxable person liable to pay tax interest penalty is the guardian of the ward on whose behalf the business is carried on by the guardian, where a taxable person liable to pay is the guardian of a ward on whose behalf the business is being carried on by the guardian, or is a trustee who carries on the business under a trust. And if the guardianship or the trust is terminated, the ward or the beneficiary shall be liable to pay the tax interest penalty due from the taxable person up to the time of termination, whether it is determined before or after. Liability in other cases, section 94. ठीक है, where a taxable person, one minute, यहां पर हमने क्या रीड किया था, ऑन द डेथ ऑफ द प्रोपराइटर। अब हम क्या रीड कर रहे हैं, डिसकंटिन्यूएशन ऑफ द बिजनेस बाय ए फर्म्स एओपी और एचयूएफ, where a taxable person is a firm, AOP or HUF, and such firm, association, or family has discontinued the business, then the tax interest penalty payable under this act by such firm, associations, or family up to the date of the discontinuation may be determined as if no such discontinuation had been taken place. And every person who at the time of discontinuation was the partner or member of the association or the family shall, notwithstanding such discontinuation, be jointly and severally be liable for the payment of tax interest penalty determined and penalty imposed and payable by the firm's association or family, whether such tax interest has been determined or penalty imposed prior to or after such discontinuation, subject as aforesaid, the provision of this act shall apply as if the person or partner or the member himself is a taxable person. Changes in the constitution of the firms or AOP, where a change has occurred in the constitution of the firms or an AOP, the partner of the firms or member of association as it exists before and as it exists after the reconstitution shall without prejudice to the provision jointly and severally be liable to pay tax interest penalty due from such firms or association for any period before its reconstitution or dissolution of the firms or AOP or partnership of HUF, the provision of 94 subsection 1 insofar as may be apply where the taxable person being a firm or AOP is dissolved or where the taxable person being HUF has effected partitions with respect to the business carried on by it, and accordingly a reference in that subsection to discontinuation shall be construed as reference to the dissolution or the partition. For the purpose of this chapter, LLP को क्या consider किया जाता है, firm. Court, see, sometimes this question comes with respect to RCM also, say sponsorship services provided to the LLP. ठीक, whether RCM would be applicable or not. See, for example, GTS service provided to the LLP, whether partnership firm, matlab, whether RCM would be applicable or not. So, in that case, you should read the explanation given in that notification. So, for this chapter, liability to pay in certain cases, we are talking about that LLP is considered as firms. Court means it can be district court, it can be high court, it can be Supreme Court. ठीक है, सो एक बार रिवीजन कर लेते हैं. छोटा सा चैप्टर था, बहुत छोटा चैप्टर था. Liability to pay in case of the transfer of the business, section 85. Whether transfer of the business is made by sale, by gift, by lease, leave and license, hire or in any other manner, up to the time of such transfer, then कौन लाइबल, सेक्शन 85 हमने पहले रीड किया था, ट्रांसफर ऑफ द बिजनेस. तो उसमें क्या होगा, ट्रांसफर एंड ट्रांसफरी बोथ आर जॉइंटली एंड सेवरली बी लाइबल. ठीक है, उसके बाद में हमने बात की थी एजेंट एंड प्रिंसिपल की. एजेंट वो सप्लाई द रिसीव द टैक्सेबल गुड्स ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल. देन एजेंट एंड प्रिंसिपल आर जॉइंटली एंड सेवरली बी लाइबल टू पे द टैक्स. उसके बाद में हमने रीड किया था 87, amalgamation or merger of the company, where two or more companies are amalgamated due to the court order tribunal and order is to take effect earlier the date of that order. तो उनके बीच में जो भी सप्लाई होगी या रिसीव्ड होगी between any two or more such company to or from the each other, date from which merger is effective and date of order वो 1 जनवरी से 4 जनवरी के बीच में, such transaction shall be included in the turnover of supply or receipt of the respective companies and they will individually be liable to pay the tax accordingly. और इन कंपनी को हम क्या मानेंगे, डिस्टिंक्ट कंपनी मानेंगे. for the period till the date of the order. Registration certificate to the said company shall be cancelled with effect from the date of that order. अब हमने बात की थी लाइबिलिटी इन केस ऑफ द लिक्विडेशन. लिक्विडेशन में क्या होगा? Liquidator will be appointed, उसका intimation देना within 30 days, and once it will be appointed as intimated, commissioner may make any inquiry or the call. Commissioner shall notify the liquidator the amount sufficient to provide any tax interest penalty within 3 months. तो 3 महीने के अंदर commissioner inform करेंगे, and then the tax interest penalty cannot be recovered from the company. Every director is jointly and severally be liable. ठीक है. Liability of the director in the company. Tip, any tax interest penalty. Tip, due from a private company in respect of any supply for the period cannot be recovered. Director of such private company during the period be jointly and severally be liable to pay such TIP unless he prove that non-recovery cannot be attributable and not liable to pay. Then if such company get converted into the public company, तब वो liable नहीं होगा. Liability of partners of firms to pay the tax. General scenario, firm and his partner will be liable jointly and severally, and where any partner retire, he or the firm shall intimate the date of retirement of the said partner to the commissioner by a written notice. Such partner shall be liable to pay TIP due only up to the date of his retirement. अगर उसने 1 महीने के अंदर इंटीमेशन दे दिया, और अगर इंटीमेशन नहीं दिया तो till the date of intimation. List of liability of the guardian or trustee. Then again, business is carried on by the guardian, by the trustee, or by the agent on behalf of, and for the benefit of the minor or other incapable person, then TIP shall be levied and recovered from the such guardian, trustee, or agent. Such TIP shall be determined, levy, and recovered in like manner and to same extent as it would be recovered from the minor and capable person and is conducting the business. Liability of court of arts, etc., where the state or the portion of the state is under the control of the court of art, administrative general, official trustee, or any receiver or manager or any person appointed by the court order, then TIP shall be levied and recovered from the court of art, administrative general, official trustee. So on the death of the person liable to pay tax interest penalty if the business is continued after his death by the legal representative, then such LR or any other person shall be liable, and business is discontinued after his death, then legal representative shall be liable to pay but out of the state of the deceased person. Okay. The successor shall be liable to pay any TIP due from the transfer in case of the transfer of the business due to the death. On partition of the property of HUF, where a property of HUF or AOP is partitioned among the various member or the group of member, then individually will be jointly and severally be liable up to the date of the partition. On dissolution, अगर फॉर्म डिसॉल्व हो जाती है तो जितने भी पार्टनर थे वो jointly and severally be liable होंगे. कब तक? Up to the date of the dissolution. So by this we have completed our this chapter. Now let's move to the another chapter, that is advanced ruling. You tell me first, based on your understanding, have you come across any practical application of advanced ruling? कभी आपको advanced ruling का practical कभी exposure हुआ है? अच्छा, but one of our partner of the firms appeared. Was related to the ITC on the plant and I read extent. Great, 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 great. No sir, no, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. So होता क्या एडवांस रूलिंग? एडवांस रूलिंग इज लाइक ए ऑथोरिटी जहां पर आप अपनी प्रॉब्लम पूछ सकते हैं और उसका आंसर उनको देना पड़ेगा. सी फॉर एग्जाम्पल गीत हैज टोल्ड दैट कि उन्हें आईटीसी से रिलेटेड कंसर्न है. ठीक है, मुझे रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना है नहीं लेना, आई कैन आस्क एंड अथॉरिटी विल गिव द रिप्लाई. ठीक है, मुझे इस ट्रांजेक्शन पर कितना टैक्स पे करना है, डू आई नीड टू लाइबल टू पे द टैक्स. और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बात क्या है कि जो इसका डिसीजन है वो डिसीजन विल बी बाइंडिंग. मतलब क्या हुआ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपने कोई एडवांस रूलिंग अप्लाई की कि भाई मैं डेमो कार का आईटीसी लूंगा या नहीं लूंगा. ठीक है, एंड देव गिवन द रिप्लाई यू आर एलिजिबल टू टेक द डेमो कार का आईटीसी. एंड लेट्स से फ्यूचर में लॉ अगर चेंज हो जाता है, वो कहता है कि रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली डेमो कार का आईटीसी नहीं मिलेगा. इन दैट केस ऑल्सो the ITC on the demo car has to be given by the appellate jurisdictional officer because आपके पास appellate authority का ऑर्डर है. ये ऑर्डर कब तक रहेगा, इसकी वैलिडिटी जब लॉ चेंज हो जाता है तो ऑटोमेटिकली खत्म हो जाती है. ठीक है, लेट्स रीड अगेन. इट इज एन स्मॉल चैप्टर बट रीड कर लेते हैं. ठीक है, हाँ, एडवांस रूलिंग. Advanced ruling help the applicant in planning his activity which are liable for the payment of the GST well in advance. It also brings the certainty in determining the tax liability as the ruling given by the authority of advance ruling is binding on the applicant as well as on the concerned officer or jurisdictional officer in respect of the applicant. Further, it helps in avoiding long drawn and expensive litigation at a later date. Seeking an advance ruling is an inexpensive and the procedure is very simple. जैसे आप एप्लीकेशन फाइल करेंगे, डेट आएगी, हियरिंग होगा, ऑर्डर पास हो जाएगा. That's it. It thus provides the certainty and transparency with respect to an issue which may potentially cause disputes with tax administration. Legally constituted body called AAR can give the binding ruling to an applicant who is registered under the GST or desirous to be registered. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन एडवांस रूलिंग के लिए जा सकता है. क्या अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन कैन आस्क द क्वेश्चन टू द एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी? आंसर इज यस. मुझे टोटल 3 ट्रांजेक्शन आप बताइए विच एन अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन कैन डू इन द जीएसटी लॉ. अगर मैं रजिस्टर्ड नहीं हूं तब भी मैं कर सकता हूं. एक क्वेश्चन का आंसर आपके सामने है जी, एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी. वन आंसर इज देयर आर टोटल 3 आंसर. यू नीड टू टेल मी कि दैट वो कौन से ट्रांजेक्शन है या वो कौन से सिचुएशन है जहां पे अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन को भी पावर है जीएसटी में टू आस्क टू डू समथिंग. बहुत बढ़िया. सप्लाई थ्रू ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर एंड रिफंड. एंड दैट इज द ओनली रीजन. अगर आप जीएसटी पोर्टल पर जाएंगे, इफ यू गो टू द जीएसटी पोर्टल, ठीक है, ये ना जनरेट यूजर आईडी फॉर अनरजिस्टर्ड एप्लीकेंट, अगर आप इस पर क्लिक करेंगे देन दीज आर द, एक सेकेंड, these are the 3 facility which an unregistered person can avail. Claim refund, ईसीओ के थ्रू सप्लाई और तीसरा एडवांस रूलिंग. दीज आर द ओनली 3 थिंग्स. क्लियर? ठीक है, अब आते हैं आगे. नाउ there are timeline prescribed for passing the order. The broad object for setting up a mechanism are provide certainty in the tax disputes in advance in relation to an activity proposed to be undertaken by the applicant, attract foreign direct investment to ensure the certainty in taxation, reduce the litigation, and pronounce the ruling. एडवांस रूलिंग के सेक्शन 95 से लेके 106 तक है सीजीएसटी एक्ट के, और रूल्स 103 से 107 ए तक है. एडवांस रूलिंग का मतलब क्या है, इसकी डेफिनेशन बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है. एडवांस रूलिंग मींस ए डिसीजन प्रोवाइडेड बाय द अथॉरिटी और अपीलेट अथॉरिटी. इसको हम क्या यूज करेंगे, डबल ए आर, एंड देन वी विल टॉक अबाउट ट्रिपल ए आर. हम अथॉरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग के लिए क्या शॉर्ट टर्म यूज करेंगे, डबल ए आर, एंड अपीलेट अथॉरिटी के लिए क्या टर्म यूज करेंगे, ट्रिपल ए आर. ठीक है. ऑन द मैटर्स और क्वेश्चंस, मतलब कौन से मैटर्स पर या कौन से क्वेश्चन पूछे जा सकते हैं, उसकी लिस्ट 97 सबसेक्शन 2 में दी गई है. मतलब यू कैन नॉट आस्क ऑन एवरी क्वेश्चन, you cannot ask every question, you can ask the question which is listed. यहां से भी बहुत एक इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट डिराइव होगा once we will reach to the 97 subsection 2 and 100 subsection 1 with respect to obviously triple AR in relation to the supply of the goods or both being undertaken or proposed to be undertaken by the applicant. अब एडवांस रूलिंग की डेफिनेशन से एक टर्म इंपॉर्टेंट निकल के आता है, being undertaken और proposed to be undertaken. मुझे बताएंगे being undertaken past tense है, present tense है, future tense है? आप बोलोगे सर मुझे इंग्लिश पढ़ा रहे हो, नहीं, एक यहां से एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज डिराइव होती है, दैट आई एम टेलिंग यू. being undertaken which tense? it is present. ठीक है. proposed to be undertaken, is it past, present or future? is it past, present or future? future. क्या मतलब हुआ इस बात का? इस बात का मतलब हुआ, इट मीन्स दैट you can ask any question whichever is being listed in this provision, but you can ask the question which is either being undertaken, मतलब अभी आप करंटली वो ट्रांजेक्शन कर रहे हो या फ्यूचर में करने वाले हो. मीनिंग देयर बाई you cannot ask a question, sir last year I have made a supply, उसके ऊपर टैक्स की रेट क्या होगी. यू कैन नॉट आस्क द क्वेश्चन बाई, because you are asking the question for the past transactions. So the advance ruling can be with respect to the current transaction or with respect to the future transaction to be undertaken by the applicant. ठीक है. Appellate authority means appellate authority for advance ruling referred in section 99. Applicant means any person registered or desirous of obtaining the registration. Application means any application made to the authority under 97 subsection 1 and that we will discuss. अब हम बात करते हैं कौन कौन से क्वेश्चन एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी से पूछे जा सकते हैं. कौन कौन से क्वेश्चन एक बार रीड कीजिए, जस्ट रीड कीजिए, 2 मिनट लीजिए आप, एंड टेल मी विच ट्रांजेक्शन कैन नॉट बी आस्क्ड टू द अपीलेट अथॉरिटी टू द अथॉरिटी ऑफ एडवांस रूलिंग टू डबल आर. ऐसा कौन सा ट्रांजेक्शन है जो यहां पर नहीं है, विच मीन्स दैट यू कैन नॉट आस्क द क्वेश्चन. Giving you 1 minute, 2 minute, read the list and tell me which transactions are not covered in the list. एक डबल आर का डिसीजन भी रीड करेंगे। लेट्स रीड, एक बार रीड करते हैं, ठीक है, एंड देखते हैं किसका आंसर सही है। मैं किससे रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता हूं? ये लिस्ट है 97 सबसेक्शन 2 क्लासिफिकेशन, एप्लीकेबिलिटी ऑफ द नोटिफिकेशन, टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई, वैल्यू ऑफ द सप्लाई, admissibility of the ITC of tax paid or deemed to have been paid, determination of the liability to pay the tax, whether applicant is required to be registered or not. So time of supply cover है, value of the supply cover है, क्या cover नहीं है? Place of supply, which is not being covered, place of supply. So right, Ayush, in this part, and let's move further and we'll try whether any particular things done by the applicant with respect to any goods or services both amount to a result to in the supply within the meaning of that terms. It means, can you ask the question क्या refund मिलना चाहिए नहीं मिलना चाहिए? No, you cannot ask the question. Why? Because it is not there. So the place of the supply, refund, these are not covered in the list of the question to be asked from advanced ruling authority. ठीक है, फर्दर कौन से मैटर पे क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा जा सकता? क्वेश्चन विच इज ऑलरेडी पेंडिंग इन एनी प्रोसीडिंग, ठीक है, और दूसरा जो ऑलरेडी डिसाइडेड है इन एनी प्रोसीडिंग, या तो पेंडिंग है या डिसाइडेड है एनी प्रोसीडिंग अंडर द प्रोविजन ऑफ दैट, इट कैन बी असेसमेंट, इट कैन बी हाई कोर्ट, इट कैन बी ट्रिब्यूनल, जो भी मैटर क्लोज हो चुका उसका रीओपनिंग नहीं हो सकता, ठीक है। अब हम बात करते हैं ऑथोरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग एंड अपीलेट अथॉरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग, ट्रिपल ए। द अथॉरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग constituted under the provision of the SGST or UTGST Act shall be deemed to be the authority for advance ruling in that state or union territory. The government shall appoint officer not below the rank of the joint commissioner as member of the authority for advance ruling. So वहां पे क्या होगा? एक मेंबर स्टेट का होगा और एक मेंबर आपका सेंटर का होगा, बट दैट शुड नॉट बिलो द रैंक ऑफ द जॉइंट कमिश्नर. The appellate authority for advance ruling constituted under the provisions of SGST or UTGST shall be deemed to be the appellate authority in respect of that state. ठीक है, thus it can be seen that both AAR and triple AR is constituted under the respective state and UT Act but not under the Central Act. This would mean that ruling given by the AAR and triple R will be applicable within the jurisdiction of the same concerned state. It is also for this reason the why the POS cannot be asked. But I think Karnataka High Court, if I'm not wrong, has given this particular point that authority has to give the determination कि what is the place of supply. It cannot be left open. प्रोसीजर क्या है टू बी ऑब्टेन्ड फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग? अगर मुझे एडवांस रूलिंग अप्लाई करना है तो मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा? फर्स्ट, the applicant desirous of obtaining the advance ruling make the application to the AAR in the prescribed form and manner and shall be accompanied by a fees of 5,000 rupees. The application verification contained therein and all relevant document accompanying such application need to be signed in the prescribed manner. ठीक है. Upon receipt of an application, AAR shall send a copy of the application to the concerned officer and if necessary, call for any record from the concerned officer. The relevant record called by the AAR shall be written to the see. You can't say कि भाई वो ऑफिसर से कैसे डिटरमिन करेगा. There will be the different authority. तो मान लो मेरा स्टेट में रजिस्ट्रेशन है दिल्ली में और मेरा जुरिस्डिक्शन है स्टेट या सेंटर जो भी है, लेकिन जो AAR होगी जो दिल्ली स्टेट में रजिस्टर्ड होगी वहां पे एक मेंबर दिल्ली स्टेट ज्वाइंट कमिश्नर एंड एक मेंबर दिल्ली सीजीएसटी ज्वाइंट कमिश्नर होगा. नॉट बिलो द रैंक, मतलब उसके ऊपर भी हो सकते हैं. एंड जब वो मेंबर बन जाएंगे एंड देन यू विल आस्क द क्वेश्चन, एंड जब वो क्वेश्चन पूछा जाएगा तो दे कैन टेक द रिलेवेंट रिकॉर्ड फ्रॉम द माय जुरिस्डिक्शनल ऑफिसर. Got it, na? The R shall send a copy of the application to the concerned officer and if necessary, call for the relevant record from the concerned officer. The relevant record called by AAR shall be returned. The R may then examine the application along with the record called for and after hearing the applicant and his or his authorized representative. So a chartered accountant can also appear as AR on behalf of the client. Like जैसे गीत आपने कहा मेरे को कि आपने अपने सीनियर को या आप अपने बॉस को देखा होगा कि एक अटेंड की थी एडवांस रूलिंग बिकॉज इन द कैपेसिटी ऑफ ऑथोराइज्ड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव. ठीक है. Then they will pass an order either admitting or rejecting. Application of advance ruling will not be admitted in the case where the question raised is already pending or decided in any proceeding in case of an applicant under the provision of this act. अगर application reject हो जाती है, it should be by way of speaking order, giving the reason for the rejection and shall not be rejected. वही अपना principle of natural justice unless the opportunity of the being heard has been given. तो opportunity of the being heard देना ही पड़ेगा considering the principle of natural justice. The copy of order admitting or rejecting the application shall be sent to the applicant and to the concerned officer. On admission of the application, the R shall pronounce its ruling within 90 days of the receipt of application. Before giving its ruling, it shall examine the application and any further material placed before it by the applicant or obtained by the authority. Before giving that decision, R provide an opportunity to the applicant or representative and concerned officer or his representative also. If there is a difference of opinion between these two members of AAR, they shall refer the point on which they are differing to AAR for hearing the issue. If the member of AAR also unable to come to the conclusion referred to them by AAR, then it shall be deemed that no advance ruling can be given in respect to that question. A copy of the advance ruling duly signed by the member and certified in the prescribed manner shall send to the applicant, concerned officer and the jurisdictional officer. Now, suppose R is given the order, either taxpayer or the officer not satisfied with the order and they like to appeal. Tell me one thing, whether appeal is fundamental right or statutory right? Whether appeal is the fundamental right or statutory rights? Appeal is statutory right. Appeal against the order of AAR to the appellate authority. If the applicant is aggrieved with the finding of AAR, he can file an appeal with AAR. Similarly, if the concerned or the jurisdictional officer does not agree, then he can also file the appeal with AAR. ठीक है. If any appeal, कोई भी appeal must be filed within 30 days from the receipt of the order. The authority may allow the condonation of the delay of 30 days. Can you tell me the first appeal? I'm not talking about AAR. What is the time within which the applicant has to file the appeal? Normal appeal का time limit कितना है? जिसको हम commissioner appeal भी कहते हैं. What is the time limit of the normal appeal? Normal appeal जो हम बात करते हैं, so जो commissioner appeal थी, you remember? Commissioner appeal का time limit कितना है? 3 month. And what is the condonation of the delay? Condonation of the delay 1 more month. 1 more month. Condonation 1 month का है. Condonation first appeal की बात करो, and you are talking about second appeal. You are talking about second appeal. First appeal जो कि commissioner appeal है, वहां पे condonation कितना है? 3+1. And if the officer like to appeal, then what is the time limit? If the officer like to appeal, then what is the time limit? 6. Absolutely correct. 6. And condonation कितना उनके लिए? उनके लिए condonation कितना? Same. 1 month का. Just tell me one more question, one more answer. Just give me one more answer. The first appeal would be the commissioner or joint commissioner. It depends upon who passed the order. So can you tell me that which authority passed the order, then it will be commissioner, and which authority or officer passed the order, then it will be the joint commissioner appeal. First is commissioner. तो किस circumstances में कमिश्नर अपील होगा, किस सर्कमस्टांसेस में ज्वाइंट कमिश्नर अपील होगा? एक मिनट देख लेता हूं मैं. यू हैव द 1 minute. क्वेश्चन क्लियर है? मैं रिपीट करूं. In the first appeal, section 107, we have talked about in the commissioner appeal, there would be the two division. First is commissioner appeal or joint commissioner appeal. तो किस अथॉरिटी के एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी के ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट में आप कमिश्नर अपील करेंगे और किस अथॉरिटी के ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट में आप कमिश्नर अपील जॉइंट कमिश्नर को करेंगे? Okay, question is clear. Fine, Sanjay. Let's see the answer of others. ठीक है. तो अगर एडिशनल कमिश्नर है या जॉइंट कमिश्नर का ऑर्डर है तो आप किसको अपील फाइल करेंगे? यू विल फाइल द अपील टू द कमिश्नर. एंड if the order is passed by the which authority, then you will file the appeal to the joint commissioner. एक चीज में कंफ्यूज मत होना, ऐसा नहीं कि जॉइंट कमिश्नर के ऑर्डर के बाद वापस आप अपील कमिश्नर को करेंगे, नहीं. जॉइंट कमिश्नर इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज कमिश्नर अपील. मतलब उस पर 2 डिवीजन किया है ताकि मतलब द वर्क वुड बी कंप्लीटेड विद इन टाइम. विच अथॉरिटी पास द ऑर्डर? If it is passed by the superintendent, if it is passed by the assistant commissioner, ठीक है, then your appeal lies with the joint commissioner. अब एक बार वापस बात करते हैं कि the appeal must be filed within 30 days from the receipt of the order. The appellate authority may allow for an additional 30 days for filing an appeal if it is satisfied that there was a sufficient cause. आज हम ब्रेक है ना 8:25 पर लेंगे, 8:25 फॉर 15 मिनट का ब्रेक हम एक साथ लेंगे. 15 मिनट का ब्रेक लेंगे, बट वन ट्रांच में लेंगे, दैट वी विल डू एट 8:25. Appeal has to be filed in the prescribed form. Sorry, appeal must be filed. ये तो पढ़ लिया था. Appeal prescribed form and has to be verified in the prescribed manner. Appeal has to be filed by the applicant along with fees of 10,000 each under CGST and SGST. What was the fees for double AR? What was the fees for double AR? अभी जो हमने डबल AR रीड किया था उसका फीस कितना था? 5,000 each. करेक्ट. तो टोटल 10,000 हो गया, राइट? और यहां पे कितना है? 10 + 10 टोटल 20. वहां पे टोटल कितना था? 10. और यहाँ पे टोटल कितना हो गया? 20. ठीक है. However, if the concerned officer or the jurisdictional officer is aggrieved by the decision, then no fees is required. Obviously, department to department, they will not take any fees. Appeal, the verification contained, the verification contained therein and all the relevant document shall be signed in case the concerned officer or the jurisdictional officer by an authority in writing by such officer, and in case of an applicant in the specified manner. The authority shall pass an order, AAR shall pass an order after hearing the parties within a period of 90 days from the date of filing of appeal. If the member differ on any point referred, it shall be deemed that no advance ruling can be issued in respect of the question under appeal. The said authority can pass the order as it think fit, confirming, modifying the ruling appealed against or referred to by the appellate advance ruling authority. A copy of the advance ruling decisions by the authority should be signed by the member and certified in the prescribed manner communicated to the applicant. Rectification of mistakes. Section 102. Law gives power to R and double AR and triple AR to amend their order to rectify any mistake. Which mistake? Apparent from the record within a period of 6 months from the date of the order. Such mistake may be noticed by the authority on his own accord, or may be brought to the notice by the applicant or by the jurisdictional officer. If the rectification has the effect of enhancing the tax liability or reducing the quantum of ITC, then applicant must be heard before the order passed. Advance ruling के order की applicability क्या? Section 103 says the advance ruling given by AAR or AAR shall be binding only on the applicant and on the concerned officer or the jurisdictional officer. In respect of an applicant, this clearly means that advance ruling is not applicable to similarly placed other taxable person in the state. It is only limited to the person who has applied for an advance ruling. क्या मतलब इस बात का? It means, suppose I am doing the business of, let's say, bottle manufacturing plant, and I am applied for advance ruling. I was confused with the tax rate, whether 5, 12 or 18 would apply. Then advance ruling has given the answer that 12 would be applied. This order cannot be used by any other registered person in the same state and for the same business. Why? Because section 103 says that the decision or the order is limited only for the applicant and only for the jurisdictional officer. Correct. The law does not provide a fixed time period for which the ruling shall apply. Instead, it has been provided that shall be binding till the period when the law, fact and circumstances supporting the original advance ruling not changed. अगर law change हो गया या fact and circumstances change हो गए, in that case, again, I can say the decision of the advance ruling would not be binding on the applicant himself. ठीक है. Advance ruling to be void in advance ruling to be void in certain circumstances. Section 104 state the circumstances under which the ruling considered as void and hence would lose its binding value. If the authority find the advance ruling pronounced has been obtained by fraud, suppression of the fact, or misrepresentation of the fact, it may, by order, declare the advance ruling void ab initio. As a result, all the provision of the CGST will apply as if the advance ruling has never been made. If order declaring the advance ruling to be void can be passed only after hearing the applicant, the period beginning with the date of such advance ruling and ending with the date of the order shall be excluded while computing the period specified in 73, 74 or 74A. So these are the subsection which we have already discussed. तो मतलब जो time limit है, can you tell me what is the time limit to pass the notice in 73, 74A? So leave it 73, 74. Just tell me what is the time limit to pass the order in the 74A and notice in the 74A. Just tell me time limit to so cause notice, time limit of order, and if it is extendable, then how much period is extendable? Coming in 1 minute. Sorry. 3 year plus 1 year, 3.5 year extendable by 1 more year, 42 month and 6 month. कितना टाइम लिमिट था? Total 42 month to issue the notice and pass the order 6 month. तो total कितना हुआ? 42 plus 6, 48, मतलब 4 साल. And it can be extended by 1 more year. Total कितना हुआ? 5 साल. अगर आपने 73, 74 रीड किया होगा, if you have read about 73, 74, have you read about 73, 74? इन द इंटर? आपके सिलेबस में था इंटर? आप इंटर के टाइम पे? ओके। तो 73 74 में क्या प्रॉब्लम थी? 73 में टाइम लिमिट था टोटल 3 ईयर टू पास द ऑर्डर। 74 में टाइम लिमिट था पास द ऑर्डर इज 5 ईयर। ठीक है, तो प्रॉब्लम था और 73 किस चीज के लिए था? जहां पे फ्रॉड नहीं है, इंटेंशन मालाफाइड नहीं है, और 74 क्या था? जहां पे फ्रॉड और विलफुल मिस स्टेटमेंट है। तो प्रॉब्लम क्या था 73 और 74? बिकॉज अलग अलग टाइम लिमिट था, तो ऑफिसर के पास टाइम कम मिलता था, एंड दैट वाज द मेन रीजन एज पर माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि इन दोनों को मर्ज कर दिया, तो इफेक्टिवली नॉन फ्रॉड केसेस में, इफेक्टिवली नॉन फ्रॉड केसेस में भी 5 साल का टाइम मिल गया। ठीक है, और power and the procedure of AAR and AAR, both R and AAR are vested with the power of the civil code under the code of the civil procedures for discovery, inspection, enforcing the attendance of the person, examining him on oath, issuing commissions, and compelling the production of books of accounts and other records. Both the authority are deemed to be the civil code for the purpose of the section 195 of the CRPC. Both the authority, however, not rated as civil code for the purpose of this chapter. For the purpose of this chapter of the CRPC, any proceeding before the authority shall be deemed to be the judicial proceeding under section 193 and 228 for the purpose of 196 of the IPC. इसमें है ना, एक सेकंड रुकना। हाँ, ये रीड करते हैं बिकॉज दिस इज दी आई कैन से द चेंजेस विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी, एडवांस रूलिंग चैप्टर। व्हाट इज द चेंजेस? सी, फाइनेंस एक्ट 2019 ने क्या मेंट किया? एडवांस रूलिंग की जो डेफिनेशन थी क्या थी? एडवांस रूलिंग मींस ए डिसीजन प्रोवाइडेड बाय द अथॉरिटी और अपीलेट अथॉरिटी, और यहां पे एक वर्ड ऐड कर दिया क्या? नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी। और कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंगली उन्होंने सेक्शन का रेफरेंस क्या दिया? 101C। ठीक है, इससे फर्क क्या हुआ? इससे क्या डिफरेंस हुआ? और नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी की रिक्वायरमेंट क्यों थी? पहले वो ट्राई समझने की कोशिश करते हैं। सी, लेट्स से एक यूनिट, मैं एक रजिस्टर्ड टैक्सेबल पर्सन हूं इन दिल्ली एंड आई एम ऑल्सो टेकिंग द वन रजिस्ट्रेशन इन महाराष्ट्र एंड डूइंग द सेम नेचर ऑफ बिजनेस। सो आई विल बी कॉल्ड एज विच पर्सन? मतलब मेरा एक नंबर जीएसटी का दिल्ली में और एक नंबर महाराष्ट्र में, तो आई विल बी कॉल्ड एज विच पर्सन? डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन, राइट? करेक्ट, डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन। So अब क्या हुआ? Now I have applied the advanced ruling okay, that how much would be tax rate on my bottles. So after analyzing the fact, they have given the answer as 12%. Will that 12% will be applicable on me? Will that 12% will be binding on me? Or I can ignore? Will it be binding the decision of advanced ruling? The 12% tax rate? Answer is yes. Let's say I have applied in Delhi. So you are saying it कि दिल्ली में वो मेरा डिसीजन अप्लाई होगा, राइट? Now let's say in the Maharashtra I have applied. In the Maharashtra also I have applied, but the advanced ruling saying that tax की rate would be 18%. Now don't you think that एक ही company, एक ही product, one state is saying 12%, one state is saying 18%. Don't you think it is not correct? मतलब अब एक ही कंपनी में दो टैक्स के रेट होना पॉसिबल करेक्ट नहीं है, एंड टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ द जीएसटी, वन नेशन वन टैक्स, करेक्ट ना? तो देयरफॉर दे हैव ब्रिंग द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी। उसमें क्या होगा? एनी वन जुरिस्डिक्शनल, इधर दिल्ली और महाराष्ट्र एप्लीकेंट कैन गो फॉर द नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग, or any of the jurisdictional officer can also file the appeal and ask the question जब वो क्वेश्चन का आंसर मिल जाएगा तो दैट डिसीजन वुड बी बाइंडिंग ऑन ऑल द GSTIN in the pen and all the jurisdictional officer of every GSTIN. But National Appellate Authority is not yet constituted. National Appellate Authority is also not yet constituted. Purpose के लिए ना. Now let's read. अब ठीक है. National Appellate Authority Constitution, the government on the recommendation of the Council 101A, with effect from the date as may be specified therein, an authority known as National Appellate Authority for advance ruling hearing the appeal under section 101B. नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी में कौन कौन लोग होंगे? एक प्रेसिडेंट होंगे. प्रेसिडेंट का ग्रेड क्या होगा? वो हैज बीन जज of the Supreme Court or Chief Justice of High Court or is or has been the judge of the High Court for a period of not less than 5 years. एक टेक्निकल मेंबर सेंटर के होंगे, एक टेक्निकल मेंबर स्टेट के होंगे. जो सेंटर के टेक्निकल मेंबर होंगे वो क्या होंगे? IRS होंगे या ग्रुप ए और हैज बीन कंप्लीटेड एट लीस्ट 15 years ऑफ द सर्विस इन द ग्रुप ए. या तो IRS ऑफिसर है, दैट्स इट, या ग्रुप ए ऑफिसर हैं और ग्रुप ए ऑफिसर में उन्होंने कम से कम 15 साल की सर्विस को कंप्लीट किया है. टेक्निकल मेंबर ऑफ द स्टेट नॉट लेस देन हैज बीन ऑन ऑफिसर ऑफ द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट नॉट बिलो द रैंक ऑफ द एडिशनल कमिश्नर और वैट और एडिशनल कमिश्नर ऑफ द स्टेट टैक्स with at least 3 years of experience in the administration of existing law or state GST Act or in the field of the finance and taxation. स्टेट के डेजिग्नेशन और सेंटर के डेजिग्नेशन अलग डिफरेंस होते हैं, करेक्ट ना? इट इज नॉट सेम. Then the president of the National Appellate Authority shall be appointed by the government after the consultation with the CGI. The provided that in the event of occurrence of any vacancy in the office of the president by reason of the death, resignation or otherwise, senior most member of the National Appellate Authority shall act as the president until the date on which the new president appointed in accordance with the provision of the act to fill that vacancy. Provided further that where the president is unable to discharge function owing to the absence, illness or any other cause, the senior most member shall discharge the function of the president. Next क्या है? The technical member center and technical member state of the National Appellate Authority shall be appointed by the government on the recommendation of the selection committee consisting of such person and such manner as may be prescribed. No appointment of the member of National Appellate Authority shall be invalid merely by reason of any vacancy or the defect in the Constitution. सेम बात वहां पे हमने ट्रिब्यूनल के लिए भी डिट की थी. बिफोर अपॉइंटिंग एनी पर्सन एज द प्रेसिडेंट और member of the National Appellate Authority, the government shall satisfy itself that such person does not have any financial or other interest which are likely to be prejudicial, affect the function. The salaries, allowance, other terms and conditions of the service of the president or the member shall be such as may be prescribed, provided that neither the salary and allowance nor other terms and conditions shall be varied to their disadvantage after their appointment. The president of the National Appellate Authority shall hold office for a term of 3 years from the date on which he entered upon his office until he attain the age of 70 years, whichever is earlier, and shall also be eligible for reappointment. The technical member center and the technical member state of the National Appellate Authority shall hold office for a period of 5 years from the date on which he entered upon his office. And क्या age limit is 65 years. The president or the member may, by notice in writing under his hand, addressed to the government, resign from the office. Provided that president or the member shall continue to hold office until the expiry of the 3 months from the date of the receipt of the notice by the government. The government may, after consultation with CGI, remove from the office such president or the member who has been insolvent, convicted an offence which in the opinion having involved moral turpitude, become physically or mentally incapable, financially or other interest likely to be prejudicial, and has so abused his position as to render his continuation in office prejudicial to the public interest, provided that president or the member shall not be removed on any ground specified in the clause E, unless they inform the charge and give the reasonable opportunity of the being heard. Correct. Without prejudice to the provision of subsection 11, the president and the technical member shall not be removed from the office except by an order made by the government on the ground of the proven misbehaved or incapacitated after an inquiry made by the judge to the Supreme Court nominated by the CGI. The government, with the occurrence of the CGI, may suspend from the office the president, technical member, in respect of whose a reference has been made to the judge of Supreme Court. Subject to the provision of Article 220, the president or the member on ceasing to hold their office shall not be eligible to appear, act or plead before the National Appellate Authority where he was the president or as the case may be member. Appeal to the National Appellate Authority, where in respect of the question referred to in 97 subsection 2, conflicting advance ruling are given by the appellate authority of two or more state. See, where question in respect of the question being asked in the 97.2, conflicting advance ruling given by the appellate authority of two or more state. Under section 101 subsection 1 or 3, any officer authorized by the commissioner, 1, from the department or applicant himself, being distinct person, may prefer an appeal to the National Appellate Authority. This is clear, right? Provided that the officer shall be from the state in which such advance ruling has been given. Okay. Every appeal under this section shall be filed within a period of 30 days from the date on which the ruling sought to be appealed against is communicated to the applicant, concerned officer and the jurisdictional officer, provided that the officer authorized by the commissioner may file appeal within a period of 90 days. इसको कितना टाइम मिला था? 30 डेज को, पर यहां पर कमिश्नर 90 डेज. Provided that National Appellate Authority may, if it is satisfied that appellant was prevented by a sufficient cause from presenting the appeal within the period of 30 days, or as the case may be 90 days, then they can allow 30 more days being condonation of the delay. For the removal of the doubt, it is clarified that period of 30 or 90 shall be counted from the date of the communication of the last of the conflicting ruling sought to be appealed against. मतलब जो एडवांस रूलिंग मेरे फेवरेबल नहीं थी, जो लास्ट, फॉर एग्जांपल मैंने आपको कहा कि दिल्ली के केस में 12% और महाराष्ट्र के केस में 18%, तो आई विल द लास्ट डेट, लेट्स से लेटर डिसीजन आया मेरा महाराष्ट्र का, तो महाराष्ट्र की एडवांस रूलिंग जिस दिन पास हुई है, नो, जिस दिन कम्युनिकेट हुई है टू मी, उस दिन से मैं 30 दिन के 90 दिन की काउंटिंग करूंगा. एवरी अपील अंडर दिस section shall be in such form, accompanied by such fees and verified in such manner as may be prescribed. Order of Appellate Authority. National Appellate Authority may, after giving a opportunity of the being heard to the applicant, ठीक है, all principal chief commissioner of the central tax and central chief commissioners, commissioner of the state tax of all state, and chief commissioner and commissioner of the UT of all UT pass such order as think fit, confirming or modifying the ruling appealed against. If the member is different in the opinion or any point, it shall be decided according to the majority. The order referred to in subsection 1 shall, as far as possible, within a period of 90 days from the date of filing of appeal under 101B, copy of the advance ruling pronounced by the National Appellate Authority shall be duly signed by the member and certified in the manner as may be prescribed, and shall be sent to the applicant, the officer authorized by the commissioner, the board, the chief commissioner, जो भी इन्होंने किया. सेम जो 102 का था कि authority or the appellate authority may amend or pass an order by it, यहां पर और the national appellate authority ऐड कर दिया और 98, 101 और 101C का रेफरेंस दे दिया. ठीक है, दैट्स इट. सेक्शन 103 सबसेक्शन 1 ने नया सबसेक्शन बनाया. एडवांस रूलिंग प्रोनाउंस्ड बाय द नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी under this chapter shall be binding on the applicant, being distinct person who had sought the ruling under 101B subsection 1, and all registered person having the same PAN under the income tax. The having the same PAN but अलग अलग GST number है. तो concerned officer and the jurisdictional officer and the registered person having the जितने भी jurisdiction officer है, जितने भी registered person के उस अलग अलग GST नंबर के उन सब के ऊपर बाइंडिंग होगा. 103(2) एडवांस रूलिंग रेफर टू इन 1 एंड यहाँ पे 1A का रेफरेंस दे दिया. सेम 104 में रेफरेंस दे दिया और जो भी रेफरेंस था 105 पावर ऑफ अथॉरिटी अपीलेट अथॉरिटी. और अब यहाँ पे क्या कह दिया, नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी. क्लियर है. 106 procedure for filing the authority appellate authority and then national appellate authority. By this our chapter is completed. Now we'll take the break of 15 minutes and first we will try to read one advanced ruling decision and then we'll go to the case study which we have discussed in the last class. ठीक है, अशोक जी 15 मिनट का ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर दीजिए सर. completed liability to pay, and we have also completed to advance ruling chapter. Now, we'll read one advance ruling for our practical understanding. Let me go to the again same website which I talked about. So like you can see that this advanced ruling you can select. So again the website would be the gstcouncil.gov.in, and they are uploading the advanced ruling authority decision regularly. Okay, let's download this one. So obviously there would be some question or some provision which we are going to discuss, and we'll see how this advanced ruling. See, authority for advanced ruling. It means, is it double AR or triple AR? Is it double AR or triple AR? Just confirm. Is it double AR or triple AR? Thank you so much. Double AR or triple AR? The answer is double AR or triple AR? The answer is authority for advanced ruling. For triple AR, it would be appellate authority for advanced ruling. Okay. Who are the member present? Sri Mr. C, IRS officer. So he is an additional commissioner CGST, and Sri B Sushil Kumar, and he is a joint commissioner SGST. Correct. One member from the center, one member from the state. Correct. Advanced ruling. So again, these two member order has been passed in the 98 subsection 4 of the CGST Act. एक मिनट रुकना, ठीक है. हाँ, I appeal against this advanced ruling. Any appeal against this advanced ruling shall rise before the Tamil Nadu State Appellate Authority for Advanced Ruling, Chennai, within 30 days from the date on which the ruling sought to be appealed is communicated. तो अगर इस एडवांस रूलिंग के अगेंस्ट में अपील करना चाहता है कोई भी टैक्स पेयर या फिर टैक्स ऑफिसर, they can do so, but they are just giving the jurisdiction where you need to file the appeal. In terms of the section 103 subsection 1, the AAR decision shall be binding only to the applicant who has sought the appeal against 97 subsection 2 in the 97 subsection 2 matter, or the concerned officer, jurisdictional officer. The 103 subsection 2, this advanced ruling shall be binding unless the law, fact, circumstances does not change. Advanced ruling obtained by way of the fraud, suppression of the fact shall render such ruling to be void ab initio in accordance with the section 104 section 104 CGST Act. Provisions of both CGST and Tamil Nadu SGST are to be referred except for the certain provisions. Means both are identical, both are same, that we all know. Therefore, unless a mention is specifically made, such a disclaimer provision reference to the CGST would also mean to the reference to the SGST. What is the GSTIN number? What is the legal name, trade name, registered address, date of application, state, ठीक, and manufacturer description. Now the nature of the activity in respect of which advance ruling is sought for. The applicant is engaged in the business of manufacturing of injection molding machinery and accessories. Applicant is expanding their business and have construed a new factory. They have incurred huge capital expenditure toward the procurement in relation to setting up the factory. They entered into the separate contract with the supplier for supply, installation, testing, and commissioning for the new factory. The above electric work fall under this SAC. What is the full name of the SAC? What is the full name of the SAC? Very right. Service Accounting Code. Correct. And if it is goods, then what is the name to be used? अगर ये goods होता तो क्या नाम यूज होता? HSN. Absolutely correct. अगर मेरी टर्नओवर अप टू 5 करोड़ है तो कितना डिजिट मैंडेटरी है? क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू द एडवांस इनवॉइस अकाउंट्स एंड रिकॉर्ड चैप्टर. If my turnover is up to 5 crore, then it is 4 digit or 6 digit or 8 digit? फोर डिजिट और 6 डिजिट. ठीक है. अप टू 5 करोड़ 4 डिजिट, more than 5 crore 6 digit. Any options for B2C? Any options for B2C? Any options is being given for B2C? B2C not mandatory for any turnover? Or Sanjay, you are saying it is mandatory for all turnover? Try to think again and give me the answer. Correct. If your turnover is up to 5 crore, then B2C is optional. But if your turnover exceed 5 crore, B2B and B2C both are mandatory. Issue on which advanced ruling admissibility of ITC paid or deemed to have been paid. Is it correct question which they have asked for? Can this question be asked in the advanced ruling authority? Can this question be asked? Answer is yes. This is the list of the question and admissibility of ITC. ठीक है. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Whether ITC would be available or not, what should be the basis to arrive at the timeline to build the ITC, etc. The applicant has made the payment of application fees of 5,000 each under CGST and as well as SGST. The applicant is the business of manufacturing of injection of molding machinery. Applicant is expanding their business statement. So I'm not reading every aspect. I'm not reading all the particular discussion which has happened in this advanced ruling. Just giving the overview. तो जब आपको एडवांस रूलिंग अप्लाई करनी है तो आप कैसे अप्लाई करोगे? यू विल राइट द स्टेटमेंट, यू विल राइट एवरी फैक्ट सपोर्टिंग द लॉ. ठीक है. इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में एंटर किया उसने, ये उसका एक्सपेंडिचर था. देन whatever the reason which he feel that yes, ITC should be allowed or ITC should not be allowed, then what happened? And ultimately, at last, then they will give the personal hearing. Personal hearing is mandatory. Yes, because they have to. They should give the opportunity of the being ना. बिना सुने तो decision दे नहीं सकते, right? So they are giving the personal hearing, whatever the matter it has been discussed, and discussion and finding, and at last they will give the order. So you read this particular any decision. I'm not talking about this decision, particular any decision. You will able to understand more complexity. You will be able to understand more better understanding on the provisions. So finally, ruling. Ruling means taxes under the GST. The taxes paid under the GST on the electric installation were carried out for expansion of the factory is not eligible for ITC. And what is the reason? As it is blocked in 17.5C. Question for answering the second query on the timeline to avail the ITC involved does not arise at all. Why? Why does not arise at all? Why the question of time limit to take the ITC will not arise? Because the electronic installation work on which he has asked first question ki whether he is eligible to take ITC. If the answer is no, then obviously the time limit question will not arise. Correct. This is the administration in copy given to whom? To the commissioner of the CGST, commissioner of the commercial tax, principal chief commissioner. That's it. I hope it is clear. अब एक हम लोग बात कर लेते हैं. Now let's read one particular I think केस स्टडी जो हमने लास्ट क्लास में बात की. ठीक है. केस स्टडी 1. एल कंपनी विजिबल है ना स्क्रीन पर? मैंने जो आपको शेयर किया वही करेक्ट है ना? जस्ट एक बार कंफर्म कर देना. यस, ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है. ठीक है. L&Co company, a partnership firm with two partner X and Y, registered in Calcutta. It engaged in the supplying the material for construction related activity. X and Y are the friend, and each of them also have their own separate sole proprietorship firm. These firms are registered under GST. Mr. A is the tax consultant of L&Co. Okay. X gets an offer from a customer, W Private Limited, thereafter referred to as WPL, to issue some supply related bills to meet the budget allocated to WPL by their management in relation to civil work. Mr. X shall earn a commission of 20% of the value of the supply charged in the supply bill accepted by WPL, agrees to share 50% of funding to Mr. Y for undertaking the above project. L&Co need a bank loan for expanding its business operation and supply the bill, and the supply bill issued to WPL will inflate the turnover. X and Y sought advice from the consultant Mr. A as how to execute the above project for supplying the bill to the WPL. कंसल्ट किया उसने ए से और ये फॉलोइंग एग्जीक्यूशन किया. क्या किया? L&Co shall issue supply related bill for steel, jelly stone and cement for 280 lakh to Mr. X wherein the delivery site will be the WPL. ये कौन सा मॉडल हुआ? बिल्ड टू शिप टू मॉडल. एक बार क्विकली बताना, बिल्ड टू शिप टू मॉडल के केस में प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई क्या होता है? व्हाट इज द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई इन केस ऑफ बिल्ड टू शिप टू मॉडल? What is the place of the supply in case of build to ship to model? Place of the supply will be the billing location, correct? जिसको बिल किया, जिसके इंस्ट्रक्शन पर मैं डिलीवरी कर रहा हूं कहीं और दूसरी जगह, शिप टू पे, तो that will be the billing address. X shall avail and utilize the ITC on the bill of rupees 280 lakh and shall separately enter into the contract with WPL for supply the steel, jellystone and cement for 280 lakh. Further, Mr. X in his individual capacity shall issue the labor work related bills for 40 lakh for the assembly, erection, plant and machinery, etc. Without actually providing the service. WPL will avail and utilize the ITC on the bill of 280 and 40 lakhs. All inventory registers are updated duly by L&T company without any actually movement of the supply of the material, and some EV bill are also generated on the behalf of Mr. X for the supply made to the work site of the WPL. May Mr. A assure X and Y that inventory register are up to date, complaints pertaining to EV bill have been taken care, money has been duly realized. X approached his friend Mr. P, a practicing chartered accountant, for seeking the help in the above arrangement. However, Mr. P makes Mr. X convergent with the following GST implication that may arise in the above. आपको क्या लगता है क्या क्या implication आ सकता है? What will be the implication? हम पहले बात करते हैं issue of invoice by L&T company to Mr. X. X ने जो इनवॉइस लिया था, whether there was an actual movement of the goods, whether there was any actual movement of the goods. यहां पर एक्चुअल मूवमेंट तो नहीं हुआ था ना, L&T company to X, करेक्ट. Since there has been only tax invoice without supply of the goods, therefore क्या ये ट्रांजेक्शन सप्लाई है सेक्शन 7 के अकॉर्डिंग? क्या ये ट्रांजेक्शन सप्लाई है 7 के अकॉर्डिंग? आंसर इज नो. As it is not a supply, so no tax liability arise and accordingly no demand and recovery is required to be made against L&T company under the provision of 74 capital A. And registered person shall however be liable to penal action under 122(1)(2), issuing the tax invoice without supplying the goods. तो 122 की पेनल्टी लग सकती है ऑन L&T कंपनी. अब X की बात करते हैं, क्या X के ऊपर 74A की पेनल्टी लग सकती है? Will X be liable for the penalty of 74A? Will X be liable for the penalty of 74A? X ने जो इनवर्ड मटेरियल का बिल लिया है उसके ऊपर क्या ली होगी? आईटीसी ली होगी. He टेकन द आईटीसी. सप्लाई तो नहीं है, बट अगर आईटीसी ली है एंड विच कंडीशन ही हैज नॉट सेटिस्फाइड. 16 सबसेक्शन 2 में पहले 4 थी फिर 5. कौन सी कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड नहीं हुई? आईटीसी विद रिस्पेक्ट टू रिसीट ऑफ गुड्स इज नॉट बीइंग सेटिस्फाइड विदाउट रिसीट ऑफ गुड्स. ठीक है, तो अब क्या 74A का पेनल्टी लग सकता है? इन दिस केस will the penalty under section 74A be leviable? Answer is yes. Registered person has availed and utilized fraudulent ITC on the basis of tax invoice in contravention of the 16 subsection 2 clause B. Correct? Huh? We without receipt of goods, without receiving the goods. Further, there was no supply of the steel and labor related from XC. X के लिए दो ट्रांजेक्शन है. पहला ट्रांजेक्शन जो वो आईटीसी ले रहा है, दूसरा ट्रांजेक्शन वो जो WPL को बिल इश्यू कर रहा है, तो इस लैग के लिए तो 74A लग जाएगा, ठीक है। क्या इस लैग के लिए जो एक्स ने इनवॉइस इश्यू किया टू द WPL, अगेन विल द 74A बी अप्लाइड? क्या 74A लग सकता है एक्स ने जो WPL को बिल इश्यू किया है विदाउट मेकिंग अंडरलाइंग सप्लाई? द आंसर इज नो, करेक्ट। क्यों? व्हाट इज द रीजन? बिकॉज देर इज नो सप्लाई, देर इज नो अंडरलाइंग गुड्स और सर्विसेज विच हैज बीन गिवन, तो वो ट्रांजेक्शन सप्लाई की डेफिनेशन में फिट ही नहीं करेगा सेक्शन 7 में, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट सेक्शन 7 एंड देयरफॉर इट इज नॉट अ सप्लाई। Therefore, tax की demand and recovery cannot be made against Mr. X for the invoice issued to WPL. Will the penalty of 122 be leviable? क्या penalty of 122 subsection 1 be leviable? Answer is yes. Let's read. Further, there was no in this specific case, no demand and recovery of either ITC wrongly availed in case the tax liability in respect of the said outward supply by X to WPL is required to be made from Mr. X under 74A. However, in case Mr. X shall be leviable for the penal action both 122.12 and 122.17 for issuing the invoice without actual supply of the goods, and also ITC or utilizing the fraudulent ITC without actual receipt of the goods. This offense is also punishable with an imprisonment for a term which may extend 3 years and fine. तो ऑफेंसेस जिसके अगेंस्ट में पेनल्टी कैन बी एक्सटेंड, पेनल्टी जो कि इंप्रिजनमेंट के रूप में दी जा सकती है फॉर अप टू 3 ईयर, उसके लिए डिफॉल्ट का अमाउंट कितना होना चाहिए? व्हाट इज द क्वांटिफिकेशन ऑफ द अमाउंट ऑफ द डिफॉल्ट? वेदर इट इज more than 5 crore or something else, I don't know. Can you please help me to recall that we have talked about certain imprisonment categories? अगर डिफॉल्ट का अमाउंट मोर देन 5 करोड़ है, if default is more than 5 crore, then penalty would be, in terms of imprisonment, would be extend up to 5 years. अगर 2 crore से ज्यादा but up to 5 crore, then this will be the 3 year. What was the third clause? You remember what was the third clause? ये सभी केस के लिए था कि कुछ एक ओनली वन केस के लिए था? 1 करोड़ से ज्यादा है तो ओनली वन केस कवर था। कौन सा केस कवर था वो? इट वॉज ओनली वन केस, इट वॉज ओनली वन केस, दैट इज फेक इनवॉइसिंग. WPL will be liable for the demand and recovery of the ITC billed and utilized along with the penal action applicable for the fraud case under section 74A along with interest and section 50 for taking and utilizing the ITC without actual receipt of the goods. This offense, see again, you got my point कि पहले वाले जो सप्लाई नहीं था खाली इनवॉइस था, उसके लिए 74A एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा, ओनली पेनल्टी 122 की प्लस ऑफेंस अंडर 132(12). दूसरा जो आईटीसी रॉन्गली अवेल्ड किया है एंड यूटिलाइज भी कर लिया, तो पहले अवेलमेंट का जो 16(2) का कंडीशन सैटिस्फाइड नहीं हुआ, उसके लिए 74A की पेनल्टी, बिकॉज यूटिलाइज भी कर लिया इसलिए इंटरेस्ट भी एप्लीकेबल होगा एंड इम्प्रिजनमेंट तो ऑल टुगेदर इज अवेलेबल. जीएसटी इंप्लीकेशन ऑन मिस्टर ए. क्या मिस्टर ए के ऊपर कोई इंप्लीकेशन है क्या? इज देयर एनी इंप्लीकेशन ऑन मिस्टर ए? Mr. A is advised for design the above practice shall also be liable to the penalty because he is assisting, he is supporting, he is designing to add or abate the offense. यहां पर अगर ये let's say in this case if Mr. A is getting some commission also, ऊपर जो अमाउंट था ना, let's say he is getting 5% commission for the entire designing, 5% कमीशन, देन कौन सा पिनल एक्शन आप एडिशनली चार्ज कर सकते हैं? मास्टरमाइंड वाला 122 subsection 1A वाला mastermind, then he can be मतलब also covered under 122 1A mastermind, जिसमें उसका बैंक अकाउंट भी अटैच किया जा सकता है for recovering that amount. Mr. P appraised Mr. X that if any chartered accountant advised Mr. X on the above arrangement, then he will also be punishable with penalty under 122(3) for aiding or abetting and may also be punishable with imprisonment. Correct. Case study number 2. Doodle LLC is entity registered in Germany and is engaged in providing online sector across multiple countries, including India. Online services, ठीक है. The services offering include certain services which are covered in the purview of OIDAR. Liable to GST in India. Since Doodle LLC does not have the place of business in India, it will appoint one employee, Mr. X, as authorized representative for all the purpose in India, in which include undertaking the GST compliances. Mr. X is the partner in XYZ Associate LLP. Post appointment of Mr. X, the following chain of event is unfolded. Now, X, being an authorized representative, made an application for registration as OIDAR. अच्छा, एक बात बताना, OIDAR के रूप में registration कब mandatory होता है? When the person is required to take registration as if OIDAR service provider located outside India, तो इंडिया में रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना कब मैंडेटरी है? वेरी नाइस यार. इफ द रिसिपिएंट इज unregistered person, non-taxable online recipient, then it is the responsibility, the liability would be shifted on the OIDAR to take mandatory registration. Subsequently, Mr. X started filing the monthly GST return and made the applicable payment. In lieu of the service, Mr. X was being remunerated a fixed sum on monthly basis as professional fees. The appointment of Mr. X was in the personal capacity, not a professional service contract with his partnership firm. However, for recovering the amount of the fixed monthly remuneration, the invoice as export of the service were issued by Mr. X in the name of his partnership firm. Corresponding refund benefit was claimed by the partnership firm for ITC against the export of such invoice. Can you tell me that this particular person, this particular Mr. X, has made the export on payment of IGST or has made the export on under LUT? इस केस में ऑन पेमेंट किया है. अरे सर्विसेज ऑलवेज अंडर LUT. सर्विस इज ऑलवेज अंडर LUT. ऐसा क्यों कह रहे हैं आप? वाई यू आर सेइंग सो? You can take the advantage of on IGST or under LUT. It is not like that if you are doing the services, it will always under LUT. No. You can do on payment of IGST also. No problem at all. The only point differentiating that you need to file the RFD01. But in this case, because he is taking the refund of accumulated ITC, therefore I am assuming he is doing the export under LUT. Doodle LLC appointed influencer in India to promote its service in India. The tax invoice of influencer was received by Mr. X in the name of XYZ and LLP, and ITC availed by the partnership firm. Said ITC was utilized for further supply of the service. However, the actual service recipient was Doodle. Subsequently, Doodle LLC was required to submit certain affidavit and accounting record before the ED. Being authorized representative or signatory of the Doodle, Mr. X approached Mr. P, a practicing chartered accountant, to prepare the affidavit and accounting record, which include critical financial information and the data of Doodle LLC. He elaborated the entire arrangement among Doodle LLC, X and XYZ Limited LLP to Mr. P. He further requested Mr. P to certify and attest the record, which would be prepared and compiled by Mr. P in the capacity of the chartered accountant. Now, what would be the GST implication? सबसे पहले incorrect issuance of invoice for export of service and claim of refund on the basis of export. X appointed as authorized representative in the personal capacity. तो पहला इसमें क्या क्या गलती हुई है इसने पहला काम किया है जो XYZ एंड फर्म से इनवॉइस इश्यू कर रहा है, दैट इज रॉन्ग बिकॉज ही वाज अपॉइंटेड इन द पर्सनल कैपेसिटी and invoice was issued by the firms and refund was taken by the firm. Since Mr. X supplied services to the Doodle without any invoice, he shall also be liable for the demand and recovery of the tax on the said supply, along with penal action applicable for fraud cases, even if the contention is made that invoice was issued for such services by the firm of Mr. X. Same shall be treated as incorrect invoice. Individual Mr. X and his partnership firms are separate person in the GST eyes. The invoice issued shall be construed as issuance of the invoice without supply of service. Correct? And incorrect refund is also being taken, and it is an offense under 122(1). All the above may also be punishable with imprisonment and fine under 132(1), depending upon the quantum. Second is availment of ITC without actual receipt of services. Because who is received the service? In this case, who has received the actual services? In this case, the services are being received by the Doodle LLC. But he has taken the ITC. Who has taken the ITC? XYZ firm has taken the ITC, right? So again, that you can say that 16(2) clause B, not satisfied, receipt of service. Accordingly, the ITC availed and utilized is not correct. Third, GST implication on Mr. X. Mr. X के ऊपर क्या implication होगा? What is the implication on Mr. X? What you can think for Mr. X? What could be the GST implication on Mr. X? One or two word. (74A) यहां पर 74A मिस्टर एक्स के ऊपर क्यों अप्लाई होगा? क्योंकि मिस्टर ए के ऊपर 74A अप्लाई हो सकता है क्या? टैक्स नॉट पेड, शॉर्ट पेड, इरोनियसली रिफंडेड, रॉन्गली आईटीसी अवेल्ड और यूटिलाइज्ड. तो यहां पर तो जो भी काम किया है उसकी फर्म ने किया है, तो इसके ऊपर पेनल्टी कौन सी एप्लीकेबल होगी? मास्टरमाइंड वाली पेनल्टी एप्लीकेबल होगी. उस केस में कुछ परसेंटेज ऑफ कमीशन था ना, कुछ था क्या? नहीं. या 122(3) जो आइडिंग और अबेटिंग है वो तो एप्लीकेबल होगी. एक्स वाज फुली इन्वॉल्व इन रॉन्ग डूइंग. ही वाज ऑथराइज्ड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव एंड सिग्नेटरी फॉर डूडल एलएलसी. Mr. X is liable to the penalty under 122(1) as well as 122(3) since he is involved in aiding and abetting and has derived the monetary benefit. The offense may also be punishable with imprisonment and fine depending upon the quantum. एग्जाम में केस स्टडी आती है, राइट ना? इन द एग्जाम देयर इज अ केस स्टडी. Correct. You have already told. Correct, Geet. So liability of the firms also to as partner. Agar firms disable matlab firm. So in the case you are saying you are linking with the liability to pay in certain cases. Today chapter. If the firm is unable to pay, then it is a jointly or severally be liable on the partner also. Okay, very nice linking. Let's read. We have the ample time. So if you like to discuss any other things, you may tell. अगर आपको कुछ और भी डिस्कस करना है, you can tell. Case study 3. ABC and Associate LLP, a firm of the chartered accountant, was impaneled with the Commissioner of the GST for special audit under Section 66. X Limited, a registered person, was selected by the office on account of irregularity notices during the scrutiny of returns. ABC was nominated by the Office of the Commissioner for Special Audit. Assume that the following event unfolded in relation to the appointment and audit procedures. क्या है? The appointment of special auditor was based on the undertaking furnished by the firms that the partner of the firms or any of their relatives are not directly or indirectly related to the auditee. However, while submitting the declaration in relation to such appointment, if ABC failed to disclose the fact that a spouse of one of the partner of ABC is working under full-time employment as head of the taxation department of the auditee, that is X Limited, what will be its implication? Material discrepancy in the valuation of, पहला क्या हो गया, related parties हो गया. दूसरा क्या है, material discrepancy in the valuation of stock transfer to related parties by the auditee were noticed by the ABC. If ABC failed to disclose these material discrepancy in the audit report submitted to the office of the commissioner, what will be its implication? तीसरा, the ITC claimed by X Limited, that is the auditee, under ITC 01. What is the ITC 01? ITC 01 किस केस में लगेगा? Can you please tell me in which case ITC 01 would be applicable? Yes, very right, Geet. Agar 4 cases, absolutely correct, 4 situations. If I am taking the voluntarily registration, second, if I am taking the mandatory registration, third, if I am switching from composition to regular, and fourth is if my exempt supply become taxable supply. Very nice. In that case, we need to fill the ITC 02. And is there any time limit? With respect to months? कि invoice should not be older than like this. Quick restriction है क्या ITC की? Is there any restriction regarding the date of invoice while taking the ITC in the ITC 01? Yes, 1 year. It should not be older than 1 year. जो भी हम ITC claim करते हैं, उस ITC का जो corresponding tax invoice है, that should not be older than 1 year. अगर वो older than 1 year होगा तो ITC नहीं मिलेगा. Now in 4 transaction, can you please tell me in which case we are allowed to take the ITC on the capital goods also? कौन सी 2 ऐसी situations हैं जहां पर मैं ITC ले सकता हूं? एक है मेरा कंपोजिशन टू रेगुलर और दूसरा है मेरा एग्जेम्प्ट बिकम टैक्सेबल. ठीक है. The ITC claim by X Limited, that is the auditee under ITC 01, was certified by one of the associate firm of ABC in favor of X Limited. Such certificate was based on the incorrect fact and against the eligibility criteria for ITC as per section 18. However, if ABC failed to exercise the due diligence and certificate is taken on record by ABC as an audit procedure and is relied upon at the time of finalization of audit report and submission, what will be the implication? Fourth है, ABC received consideration of 5 lakh from X in the name of the special audit conducted. Now, first है false undertaking submitted before the GST department and audit engagement undertaken on the basis of such undertaking. The essential terms of the appointment as special auditor included that the partner or any of the relative of the partner are not directly or indirectly linked to X Limited. That is the auditee. If the spouse of one of the partner of ABC is working the head of the taxes as in the auditee, then non-disclosure of this fact in the undertaking and other engagement document and accepting such engagement tantamount to submission of the false undertaking by the CA firm to the government authority. Further, the question may be raised about the independence of the audit team considering the fact that a spouse is holding the key position. Second, non-reporting of material discrepancy noticed during the audit procedure and the reliance upon incorrect certificate and informations. ABC audit team did not exercise the due diligence to ascertain that ITC by X is not in compliance of GST provision. Instead of that, ABC relied on the certificate issued by its own associate firm which justify the incorrect ITC claimed by X. In such a scenario, both ABC and the associate firm which issued the certificate to justify the ITC was aiding and abetting in wrongful availment of ITC punishable under section 122(3) and साथ में 132(1) is always open depending upon the quantum. Receiving consideration. The consideration is payable by the commissioner and cannot be directly recovered from the auditee. In this case, because 5 lakh has been recovered, so therefore the same is liable to the penalty under general provision, apart from other penal provisions under the GST law. Further, this will also have the impact on the independence of the auditor, ABC. Next case, A Limited is engaged in the business of manufacturing cotton yarn, wherein cotton is the principal raw material in the manufacturing process. Okay, the price of the cotton varies depending upon the market condition and is dependent on the various external factors. ठीक है, Mr. X is the tax consultant of A Limited. X advised A Limited on the GST compliance. In order to meet the expansion related expenditure, A Limited sought a term loan and working capital from bank. As per the bank, the turnover and the profitability criteria were not meeting the benchmark of banks for sanctions of any loan facility. Accordingly, following actions were undertaken by Mr. X being tax consultant. A separate entity, that is B Limited, was incorporated and directors of A Limited were appointed as directors of B Limited also. This ensured that control of B remained with the directors of A. Further, B obtained the GST registration as manufacturing of yarns, wherein X assisted B Limited in obtaining such registration. X obtained registration providing the fake document for registration. Okay. As a result, A Limited start issuing the tax invoice for supply of yarn to B Limited. However, there was no actual movement of the goods by A to B. The tax invoice was issued and reported in the GST return by A Limited. Further, B Limited availed the ITC on all such invoices reported by A Limited. The finished goods were sold in the local market by A in cash without charging GST and without issuance of tax invoice. Now, B Limited issued the tax invoice. Now in this case, B Limited has availed the ITC. If he will not make the payment within 180 days, if B not make the payment of 180 days, then whether B would require to reverse the ITC or not require to reverse the ITC. Because they are having the common director. क्या B को ITC रिवर्स करना है क्या या नहीं करना क्योंकि कॉमन डायरेक्टर है? In which case 180 days का reversal is not applicable. In which case then 180 days का reversal is not applicable. You can say 1, 2, 3 point, 2, 3 point. In which case 180 days का reversal is not applicable. So I'm asking the question from other chapter also because we have the good time today. In which case the reversal of 180 days is not applicable. Now I'm not talking about this situation. I'm talking about generally 180 days का reversal is not applicable in which all cases. Any one or two situations? Like I'm telling you one situation, if the transaction is covered under reverse charge, then even if the amount is not paid within 180 days, you are not required to reverse the ITC. Any other situation? Yes, if it is a deemed supply under Schedule 1, when there is no consideration. Now, can you please tell me that when A Limited and B Limited has that director, common director, does it not fall in the Schedule 1? Does it not fall in the Schedule 1? So when answer is yes, if you refer the clause 1 of the Schedule 1, which talks about permanent transfer or disposal of business asset where ITC has not been taken. First, second clause. What was the second clause? Supplies made to the related party or distinct party. Supplies made to the related person or distinct person. So, will it not fall in that category? Will it not be covered in this category number 2? It will. It will. If it is covered, then whether the 180 days ka reversal is not required or not required? Answer is, if it is covered in the Schedule 1, if it is covered in the Schedule 1 where the deemed consideration is there, okay, even without consideration the transaction is treated as supply, तो consideration की requirement नहीं है, वो याद रखिएगा. Now B Limited issued the tax invoice. B Limited issued the tax invoice for provision of the certain services to A in forms of testing of cotton, repair, maintenance of machinery installed at A. Apart from other services, however, no such service were actually provided by B to A. The ITC appearing in the books of B was utilized by B at the time of discharging the GST liability in relation to the alleged tax invoice issued against the provision of service to A Limited. Further, B Limited issued the tax invoice for sale of yarn to other group entities to ensure that stock of yarn becomes zero in the books. The tax invoice are issued at rate lowered by 90% of the actual tax invoice received from A, containing that the quality of the yarn has been deteriorated during the storage. X was aware about the action of A and B Limited. Further, the GST return were also being filed by Mr. X. A Limited approached Mr. P, practicing chartered accountant, to issue relevant certificate to the bank, certified the turnover of A Limited and B Limited as genuine turnover to ensure that required loan amount is sanctioned. A Limited elaborated the entire arrangement with regard to the B Limited. Now, what is the GST implication? First, GST implication of B sought on the basis of the fake registration, fake document. तो रजिस्ट्रेशन जो था वो फेक डॉक्यूमेंट के बेस पे था, तो 122(1) would be applicable and 122 will be applicable. And if you recall the registration provision, power of, now tell me one thing, can the registration be cancelled? Oh, can the registration be cancelled of B Limited if it is obtained on the basis of fake documentation? Sir, it is the power, na? It is the power given under the registration chapter we have already discussed. If the registration has been obtained on the basis of a fake document, officer has the power to cancel the registration. That should be also, you should also mention that particular clause as well. See, if this type of the question comes, you may add additional point which are being discussed in the some other chapter. Like this. This is also GST implication, right? Second is issuance of the tax invoice without actual supply of the goods or service. Following instance happen wherein there was no actual supply happen, however tax invoice was issued by supply of the yarn by A to B, उसके बाद में सर्विस इनवॉइस by B to A, तीसरा था by B Limited to the group company for the yarn to make it zero. Correct. Aforesaid actions are liable for 122(1) and 132. 122(1) subclause clause 2, issuing the tax notice without actual supply of the goods or service. We have discussed this clause in the multiple places, so we are remembering, we are thorough about this. And as well as 132 would always be there depending upon the quantification. Fraudulent ITC availment. Now, एक तो जब A ने B को इनवॉइस इश्यू किया, यहां पर B ने आईटीसी लिया, जब B ने A को इनवॉइस किया तो यहां पे A ने आईटीसी लिया और उसने ग्रुप कंपनी को इश्यू किया, उस पे आईटीसी लिया. B Limited availed the fraudulent ITC of the goods which were not at all received, and same was used in discharging the tax liability relating to invoice without actual supply. Then B Limited has availed and utilized fraudulent ITC on the basis of the said tax invoice, correct? Without receiving the actual supply of the goods. In this case, there were no supply by B to A Limited in respect of the said transaction, and also no tax was required to be paid in respect of that transaction. Again, वो दो बात हो गई जो हम ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं. B ने जो फ्रॉडुलेंट आईटीसी लिया था, B ने जो A को सप्लाई किया था, सिर्फ इनवॉइस किया था, बट देयर वाज नो अंडरलाइंग सर्विस. तो B to A, no tax payable, no demand in 74A, but yes, 122(1) would be applicable. And because B has taken the wrong ITC and also aware, then 74A would come into the picture. Therefore, no demand and recovery of either ITC or fraudulently. Can't we levy 74A as well as 122? Can't we levy both the penalties, 122 and 74A? Can't we levy both the penalties 74A and 122? 74A and 122. I'm talking about 74A, 122. Can't we levy the penalty both on the same person, on the same good, same reason? See, मैं रिपीट करता हूं एक बार. मैं कहता हूं Mr. X, let's say in this example, Mr. X has taken the wrong ITC. जस्ट इतना ही फैक्ट है, बस इतना फैक्ट है। इस फैक्ट के बेस पे मैं 74A एंड 122 क्या दोनों पेनल्टी लगा सकता हूं? कैन आई लेवी बोथ द पेनल्टी? आयुष नो, गीत फाइन, नो प्रॉब्लम। हमने कॉन्सेप्ट रीड किया था डबल जियो पार्टी का। वी हैव रेड वन कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ डबल जियो पार्टी। एक ही एक्ट के कारण एक ही टैक्स पेयर को आप डबल पनिश नहीं करेंगे। यू कैन नॉट लिव इट टू पेनल्टी अंडर टू डिफरेंट प्रोविजन, करेक्ट, फॉर द सेम रॉन्ग डूइंग। सेक्शन 75 में हमने रीड किया था, लेट मी गो टू द, एक मिनट मैं चला जाता हूं, एक मिनट दीजिएगा मुझे, लेट मी सी। where any penalty is imposed under 73 या 74 या 74A, no penalty for the same act or omission be imposed on the same person under any other provision of this act, and because of this you cannot levy the penalty under section 122। ठीक है, but 132 आ सकता है ना? Can the 132 be come in this case? आंसर इज यस, उसमें तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है ना। अब उसने रॉन्ग आईटीसी ली एंड एट द सेम टाइम ही हैज again made the supply, again made the supply without underlying goods or services, and use that wrong ITC for the making the payment. Will the 74 be applicable? 74A will be applicable if intention to it, yes, agree। क्या 74A applicable होगा इस केस में? अगेन उसने सप्लाई किया विदाउट अंडरलाइंग गुड्स और सर्विसेज एंड यूज द रॉन्ग ITC against to discharge the tax liability। 74A will be applicable? Answer is no। 74A तो नहीं होगा, लेकिन 122(1)(2) and 122(1)(7) will be applicable। सेम पॉइंट वी हैव डिस्कस्ड, करेक्ट। और अगर सिर्फ बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट से इनकरेक्ट जीएसटी रिटर्न फर्निश करता है, एंड सॉरी इनकरेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन देके जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑब्टेन करता है, तो 122(1) का पेनल्टी, एंड देन ऑल्सो दैट पर्टिकुलर रजिस्ट्रेशन कैन बी कैंसिल्ड, व्हिच गीत यू हैव टोल्ड मी, राइट। उसके बाद में इनकरेक्ट इंफॉर्मेशन इन द जीएसटी रिटर्न। सो 122 के जितने भी क्लॉजेज हैं कोशिश कीजिए याद कर लीजिए, अगर याद नहीं है तो आप सिर्फ 122(1) कोट कर दीजिए। GST implication on the Mr. X. Mr. X, being a consultant, has adequate information and knowledge of the fraud and willful misrepresentation. In fact, Mr. X himself was filing the return and was aware about the fake invoicing. Mr. X shall be liable for 122(3). हाँ, अगर कोई कंसल्टेंट इन्वॉल्व है, अगर कोई कंसल्टेंट इन्वॉल्व है तो आप क्या करोगे? 122 सबसेक्शन 3 या एक और कौन सा सेक्शन था? 122 सबसेक्शन, अगर वो बेनिफिट डिराइव कर रहा है, उस ट्रांजेक्शन से बेनिफिट डिराइव कर रहा है, तो आप और क्या ऐड करोगे? 122(1)(a), दैट इज मास्टरमाइंड वाला, ठीक है, एंड 132 डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द क्वांटम। यू कैन ऑल्सो एड इन दिस केस, जहां पे भी 122(1)(a ऐड करते हो, जहां पे भी 122(1)(a ऐड करते हो, you may add one thing that his bank account can also be attached because there was an amendment in section 83। ठीक है, this is all about, so करेक्ट। अब मैं क्विक राउंड कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछ लेता हूं आपसे। shall we start quick round of question answer, जो भी मेरे माइंड में आता है। now this I will not be limited to this chapter only, I can ask any question which whatever comes to my mind। सेक्शन 50 इंटरेस्ट, क्या रेट है अगर इंटरेस्ट ऑन रॉन्ग अवेलमेंट ऑफ आईटीसी? रॉन्ग अवेलमेंट ऑफ आईटीसी, इज इट 18 और 24? ठीक है, करेक्ट, the right answer is 18, 18। next question, that discussed one penalty on the e-commerce operator. That penalty was applicable on which ECO? 95 or 52? That liability, that penalty which we have discussed was of 122, was 122 1B we have discussed, that is applicable for TCS or for 95 ECO. The answer is tax collection at source ECO. Tax collection at source. Advanced ruling authority can give the decision on the question which is being written in the 92 subsection whatever 97 subsection 2. कौन से दो ऐसे सिचुएशन है जो कि उसमें कवर्ड नहीं है? Give me two examples or two situations on which you cannot ask the question. On which you cannot ask the question. POS and refund. Refund is also correct. Refund is correct. Refund is correct. What is the amount quantification which appellate authority takes? Appellate authority for advance ruling. कितना amount of fees है appellate authority of advance ruling? 20,000, right? And if the appeal is filed by the department, then if the appeal is filed by the department, then 0. हमने ना एक जगह पढ़ा था कि see, this is a big question. You might think and give me 1-2 permutation combination. There can also be 2-3 answer. When the advance ruling filed by the applicant and ultimately the decision cannot be made on that advance ruling, वो क्या situation हो सकती है जिसमें advance ruling authority will not frame the decision? Will not frame the decision. My God. Right. Okay. Correct. Okay. एक तो दोनों का सेम है, कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग व्यू आ रहा है, चलेगा. तो मेन तो यही था. चलो मैं एक दूसरा क्वेश्चन पूछता हूं, इसी का सब पार्ट है. ऐसे कौन से मैटर हैं जिनके ऊपर एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी में क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा जा सकता? सी, यू हैव गिवन दैट पर्टिकुलर प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई एंड रिफंड, दैट क्वेश्चंस जो मैं क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ सकता. कोई एक ऐसे कुछ मैटर ऐसे हो सकते हैं जिनके अगेंस्ट में आप एडवांस रूलिंग फाइल नहीं कर सकते. कोई मैटर ऐसे हो सकते हैं जिसके अगेंस्ट में आप एडवांस रूलिंग फाइल नहीं कर सकते. करेक्ट. दोनों मतलब या तो पेंडिंग है या रिजॉल्व है. और कौन से मैटर जिससे मैं क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ सकता? पेंडिंग और डिसाइडेड. और कौन से मैटर जिनके मैं क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ सकता? पास्ट, प्रेजेंट और फ्यूचर. ऑन विच कैटेगरी आई कैन नॉट आस्क द क्वेश्चन? पास्ट, प्रेजेंट और फ्यूचर ऑलरेडी अंडरटेकन. पास्ट मैटर से रिलेटेड आई कैन नॉट आस्क द क्वेश्चन. पास्ट रिलेटेड मैटर आई कैन नॉट आस्क द क्वेश्चन. जस्ट टेल मी इन द शॉर्ट, व्हेन we will approach to the national authority for advance ruling. कब हम national appellate authority for advance ruling को अप्रोच करेंगे? When we will reach to the national appellate authority for advance ruling. So Mr. A has applied that the rate of the bottle is 12%. Decision was 12%. And another person, Mr. B, has applied in another state and he has got the order that rate will be 18%. Mr. A and Mr. B, two different person. Can they go to the national appellate authority? Can they go to the national appellate authority? You are saying no. Okay. Should be the distinct person. Yes, it should be the distinct person. And my dear friend, till date, national appellate authority is not yet constituted. Not yet constituted. National appellate authority अभी तक नहीं बनी है. ठीक है. सो हम नॉर्मली जब एडवांस रूलिंग की बात करते हैं उसका डिसीजन इज बाइंडिंग ऑन विच पर्सन, द डिसीजन गिवन बाय द एडवांस रूलिंग इज बाइंडिंग ऑन विच पर्सन. The decision of the advance ruling is binding on which person? The person who is making the application, and its jurisdictional officer. The binding on two person, that is applicant, taxpayer जिसने अप्लाई किया और उसका jurisdictional officer. And Geet, you are also giving the correct answer for that. कि ये कब तक applicable है? Till what time it is applicable? Then your answer is correct. जब तक law, fact and circumstances change नहीं हो जाते तब तक ये binding है. तब तक ये binding है. उसके बाद automatically deemed to be withdraw. कब advance ruling का decision would be void ab initio? When the decision of the advance ruling would be void ab initio, advance ruling का decision would be void since beginning कब? If the decision is being taken on submitting of the false record, misstatement, falsified record, etc., then the decision of the advance ruling would be null and void. अगर मेरा गुड्स exempted है and the owner does not come forward to pay the tax, then what would be the quantification of the penalty in the section 129? Very nice here. 5% of the value or 25,000, whichever is lower. Yes, it is whichever is lower. एक हमने पढ़ा था कि ई वे बिल में अगर कुछ मिस्टेक हो गया देन दी पेनल्टी वुड बी 500 ईच इंस्टेड ऑफ 25,000. मतलब एक जनरल इतनी बड़ी पेनल्टी नहीं लगी कि नॉट 25,000, द बिग पेनल्टी वुड नॉट बी लिमिट, देयर वुड बी ओनली स्मॉलर पेनल्टी. कोई एक या दो सर्कमस्टांसेस, वी हैव डिस्कस टोटल 6 सर्कमस्टांसेस. इफ यू कैन टेल मी एनी वन और टू सर्कमस्टांसेस इन विच lesser amount of the penalty, that is 500 each, would be levied. एक या दो डिजिट ऑफ व्हीकल नंबर. ओके. Address error but locality is not affected. Address error but locality is not affected. That is also correct. Mistake, Ayush is saying mistake in address without changing the validity. Mistake in pin code with the validity. हाँ correct. पिन कोड में जो चेंज किया है थोड़ा सा एरर है लेकिन उसे अल्टीमेटली इंपैक्ट नहीं पड़ रहा वैलिडिटी ऑफ ई वे बिल. करेक्ट 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 करेक्ट. वेरी ट्रू वेरी ट्रू. एनी अदर? नो नो प्रॉब्लम. सो in the demand and recovery chapter, we have discussed that self-assessed tax can be recovered without the time limit also. And in the explanation, they have added the meaning of the self-assessment tax. Can you tell me which will be called as self-assessed tax. According to that 75 subsection 12 I'm talking about, self-assessed tax remain unpaid can be recovered without 73-74. डायरेक्टली रिकवरी बन सकते हैं सेल्फ असेस टैक्स की. किस डिफरेंस को मैं सेल्फ असेस टैक्स ट्रीट करूंगा एंड दैट कैन बी रिकवर्ड इवन without the time limit of 73-74? That is my question. Yes, difference in the GSTR1 and to be a 3B. Will it be 2? Yes. Difference between GSTR1 and GSTR3B will be considered as self-assessed tax, and can be recovered even without penalty. एक मैंने ट्रांजेक्शन था इंटरेस्ट रेट सप्लाई का, बट मैंने उसको इंटरेस्ट रेट ट्रीट किया और टैक्स पे कर दिया. Subsequently, I have find out after 3 years, I have find out, then I paid the correct taxes. Will it levy the interest? Will it levy the interest? The answer is no. आयुष, उसमें ना सेक्शन 77 में साफ लिखा हुआ नो इंटरेस्ट इन दिस केस. ठीक है. अब जो बात रिफंड की आती है, रिफंड का जो टाइम लिमिट है, वो टाइम लिमिट फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ द पेमेंट ऑफ रॉन्ग टैक्स होगा या फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ द पेमेंट ऑफ करेक्ट टैक्स होगा. द टाइम लिमिट ऑफ 2 years which we talks about, that will be for from 2 years from the date of the payment of correct tax या date of the payment of wrong tax होगा. The answer is date of the payment of correct tax, because wrong tax तो हो सकता है 2 years already being expired. And last question, it has to be determined by the officer or it can be determined by the taxpayer himself? It can be determined by himself or it can be determined by the officer, no problem. For that, there was a clarification. So by this, my class is completed. Any point which you like to ask? Otherwise, thank you so much. Any question? Thank you so much, Ayush. Thank you so much, Geet. And thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. We will have the next Saturday, next Friday, and then Sunday. We will have the 2 more classes. That's it. We have the 2 more classes for the GST, and then we will complete our syllabus. So by this, we are completing our today class. Ashok ji. Complete. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.